Islam Moors, Peace Hotep. Today, today's class is into the Moorvelous light, right? Into the Moorvelous light. But before we do that, I want to send a big shout out to good brother Awful Gift. Not awful as a negative, but AWE full, FUL. Awful, right? You know how the online thing goes, you know what I mean? So building with the brother, and found out he's an artist or whatever. So I told him about the museum, and he said, all right, I'll donate a piece to your museum. So the piece that you see behind me is the piece that brother Awful Gift, I don't even want to say drawn because it's crazy. So we'll just say that was his donation to the museum. So we're just putting it out there, you know what I mean, that we have the museum, right? The Noble Drew Ali Museum, first ever Moorish museum, right? In maybe anywhere, right? And this is one of the donations, right? I also want to send a shout out to brother Morin Bey out in Germany, who donated our little figurine, right? From Germany. And also to Sister Alzara. She does the dolls, you know what I mean, the Moorish dolls, and she donated 2 Noble Drew Ali dolls. So there's activity going on right now, right? The energy is flowing how the energy is supposed to flow, because it's the time right now for the Moors right now to do what we do what we gotta do, right? Because it's our time right now, right? This is the time right now that if we say Moors, right? Just very general, very vague, right? If we say Moors, if this happens to be a conversation, Noble Drew Ali's name better come up, right? And we're putting it out there. We're putting it out there so everybody knows that Noble Drew Ali does not belong to the Moors, whether they call themselves Moorish Americans or whatever they call themselves. Noble Drew Ali does not belong to the Moors, right? Noble Drew Ali is a prophet, and prophets are universal. That's just what it is, okay? If people are bad talking or bad mouthing your prophet, right? If people are bad mouthing or bad talking your prophet, right? Those people have to be run out of the territory, right? Because the prophet came for them. And if they abandon him, they abandon everybody else too, and sell everybody out, right? So it's house cleaning time right now. It's house cleaning time right now, because as much as people want to pretend, right, people are going to play this game like what Moors are talking about is irrelevant, that. And I'm not talking some egotistical, arrogant perspective, right? The history of the Moors that we're connected to is vast, and everybody in the whole entire planet knows about it, right? Everybody on the planet knows about the history of the Moors. Forget about what jurisdiction the Moors are in. Just the history of the Moors, everybody has a reference point in their mind as to where to go when referencing these people called Moors. Right? And these people abandoned their birthright. Straight abandoned their birthright. Made treaties with Europeans and land that's not theirs. Not even reading the treaty. Treaty straight says Indian right there. And you're going to sign, it says Indian right there in the contract that you're going to sign. Right? But then they're going to say that, you know, the Indians, you know, Iroquois, had something to do with the founding of the United States. Right? And they're going to talk about the Great Seal and talk about Benjamin Banneker and all these things. And we think that we have nothing to do with that because we don't call ourselves Moors. We call ourselves Negro, Black, Colored, African, Trinidadian, Tobagonian, Jamaican, Brazilian, Haitian. We call ourselves all these labels, right? When there's only one label that we are. And the resurrector of that thought in America is Noble Drew Ali, right? Amongst the people in America that didn't know they were that. Because there was Moors before Noble Drew Ali, so don't get it twisted. Oh, Cujo said that Noble Drew Ali brought the Moors. No, Moors been around, right? If we really want to, we could put Noble Drew Ali in the garbage can. Moors been around so long. Because Noble Drew Ali is irrelevant when it comes to the Moors. Because Moors been here for millions of years, galactic history. So don't think that we're pushing man worship or people personage worship. We're letting you know about a great man that came since 1913 and nobody told you about him. Imagine that. You know about everybody, right? And we say this before. You know about everybody. You know about everybody that came to do something for our people. You know about everybody. And as soon as you mention Noble Drew Ali, people turn their head wherever, looking at the floor, looking at whatever's over there. And then when we tell them about Noble Drew Ali, oh, well, no. Right? When he came for them, same people who were clowning him. And then they abandoned their birthright, and then they're going to tell me that, you know what I mean, I'm going to be down with them when they're given a license when they get stopped. A license from the enemy that they say that they're here to kill because the enemy did this and that to them, and they have his license in their pocket, and they have his credit card in their pocket, and they have his whatever else he gave them in their pocket, and they're for the liberation for me, and they have the enemy's instruments, and they're going to talk bad about the prophet, debate each other and whatever, not even mention Noble Drew Ali, right? Sit down with the master teachers, do DVDs and all that, and didn't do a Noble Drew Ali documentary yet. Talk about all the Moors. Go talk to, how come Hidden Colors, they didn't go talk to the Moors about the Hidden Colors, history in America and all that? How come the L's and Bays weren't up in the Hidden Colors stuff? Because when you ask them more, you're getting way more than you bargained for. Because Moors learned from the prophet. And Noble Drew Ali, who you never heard about, because when we say dirty Moors, we're not talking about just people in the Moor side who wear fezzes. We're talking about all those other guys that call themselves Negro, Black, Colored, whatever. They're dirty Moors too. So don't think this is one-sided. Because everybody that has melanin, that calls themselves Negro, Black, Colored, or Ethiopian, they're Moors. Period. They call themselves whatever they want to. When Moors talk, active Moors that are for the redemption of these mentally insane people who call themselves colors and adjectives and continents and all this stuff and think that they're actually doing something for themselves and for humanity, right? Noble Drew Ali, who you never heard about, gave you the questions in a book called Quran Questions or 101 Questionnaire or whatever. Don't let people fool you about which one's the best or whatever. All of them are the same information. So don't let them go there with you, right? And the 101 Questionnaire would have a picture of Noble Drew Ali on the cover holding a sister, right? And he's standing on the rock of salvation, and his other foot is in the cares of the world, right? And then there's a crescent and star, okay? And in this little book right here, there's, keep forgetting how to pronounce this thing, catechism, CATCH, yeah, right? So there's questions and answers, right? So this is how Noble Drew Ali set it up. There's questions and then there's answers, right? The questions are what Noble Drew Ali's asking, and the answer is what Noble Drew Ali is giving. So you don't have to do anything. Everything's done for you, right? That's why you said, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. Now take it and save yourself. Because he did everything for you. He gave you a question and he gave you the answer. So you're supposed to get perfect on the test. You're not supposed to 99.9% because you didn't whatever. You have the questions and the answer. Cheat sheet. So he asked the question, what is a prophet? And the answer, a prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in flesh, right? Now, if we back up some more, you also have your Moorish American prayer, right? And yes, it's called a prayer, okay? But just don't get it twisted with prayers and by the bed, you know what I mean? Put your head down and all that, right? The first thing is Allah, right? And no, all this is what Noble Drew Ali brought. This is not some Arab guy over here or whatever. This is everything that we're talking about is what Noble Drew Ali brought for us to get our perspective right, so we can take our place amongst the affairs of men instead of being niggers and basketball players and entertainers. And when, you know, we built pyramids, you mean an entertainer, you built pyramids and that's all that you're amounting to? That's the impact that you want to have on generations, right? So the first thing he says is Allah, right? Allah, as the Moors teach, right? Allah is all law. All law, meaning all universal law, all the laws that govern everything, gravity and all that. And then the law of nature, right? So, as above, so below. Chematology and all that stuff that people say is, you know, from Kemet, right? When the Moors inherited the culture of Egypt, when it fell under that name Egypt. We know we're talking about Kemet, but I just put Egypt in there for maybe a new person who never heard Kemet before. You know, we're talking about the same thing, right? Allah. Allah. So if the first thing is Allah, any more out there that tells you that Noble Drew Ali didn't bring law to you is lying to you. Anybody that tells you that Noble Drew Ali didn't bring to you standing up for your rights and enforcing the Constitution and being a constitutionalist, they're lying to you. Because from the Moorish perspective, when we say Allah, we mean Allah. right? And when we say Allah, we're not talking about because we can look into the universe and see blackness and stars and know that there's galaxies and whatever. We're talking about all the different planes of existence. Allah. Right? That's why Noble Drew Ali could make the statement that forget you niggers on the earth plane. I'm going to go to the soul plane and do the work from there, because obviously you guys aren't ready. And he said new Moors are going to come with their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, and they're going to carry out my law. Right? So question 6, when it's asking what is a prophet, and a prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in flesh, forget Noble Drew Ali. This is all Allah talking to you when we go through what Noble Drew Ali presented. Right? Noble Drew Ali is the hologram for Allah to get you the message, because you choose to not connect with Allah yourself, so a medium has to come to teach the people that you first put this foot and this foot, and when you start doing that, then you can start running. Right? Because we were out of whack, falling over, walking into each other, whatever. And Noble Drew Ali straightened us up. And he straightened us up. Certain people tried to destroy that, because they thought that, well, this is a man in front of me, and because this is man, that means that he can die and we can kill him and get him out of the way, when you can't kill Allah, especially if Allah is telling you through a hologram that Allah sent, and Allah is telling you that a prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in flesh. Find me some prophet out there, right? Find me some prophet out there that also didn't say that you're God. You're the one, not Neo. Right? So when we go through this information, know that this information is coming from a Moorish perspective. So forget what anybody ever said about Noble Drew Ali. We're going to put it down today, right? And do what everybody doesn't do. Ask them more. They want to know, they're going to ask some guy that calls himself free man. They're going to ask some guy that calls himself sovereign, whatever. They're going to ask some guy that calls himself more, whatever. They're going to ask whatever. They're going to ask all these people, right? And all these people are going to throw them in a direction of, well, give me something and I'll tell you. Then give me a little something, I'll tell you a little bit more. And then give me something, I'll tell you a little bit more. And give me something and I'll tell you a little bit more, and I'll let you come into the chamber, and then you can get all this stuff that's not what this is. Anybody running that, they're dirty. And they're taking your birthright, right, that you don't want, because you think, well, I got to check this out and see if it's legit. Because, no, I'm telling you, it's legit. Right? If you trust me, I'm telling you that the Moorish paradigm is legit. Don't get caught up in the fights that you see. Don't get caught up in the people go to jail and all that stuff, right? Because Moore went to jail this weekend. One of the brothers went to jail, right? Over some driving thing, right? Over some driving thing. Denying him bail and all this type of stuff, right? Yeah, he can't do this, he can't do that. What did he do? He's not there ranting, raving, or nothing like that. Stay mute. You guys do your thing. I already put my position on the record with you guys. So you guys do whatever you have to do. And they did whatever they had to do. Right? When they arrested him, they roughed him up and, dragged him on the floor a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Right? Charge him with assaulting somebody. Right? Goes in there, bumps into people, and all of a sudden, he's the hit of the whole jail, because Everybody in there knows about Moors. People inside know about Moors. And first thing, everybody, when you go in jail, you know, what are you here for? I'm here for driving stuff. Driving stuff? What are you doing here? This is penitentiary. Like, what are you doing here? For driving stuff. Well, you know, I get a nationality card. What do you mean, nationality card? You mean about the Moors? This guy's inside. Right? Monday, now, for his date, because they denied him bail, so they brought him back yesterday, right? Yesterday goes to court now, right? And Moors were there. They could verify, right? Yesterday goes to court, walks in, right? His wife goes in there. You know, they have a little lawyer that's working on it, right? And the lawyer's down with the information. Just, you know, he's down. He knows what it is, right? And the Moor that got kidnapped, he's the one that told the lawyer what to do and what to say. And he did it as his agent, right? But why? Because Noble Drew Ali taught that Moor that got locked up that you are your foremothers and forefathers, and nobody can make you something other than that. And he stood on that, getting in there for 2 days, having to miss his newborn son and all that. It's all part of the sacrifice that you make when you say you want to get down with Noble Drew Ali and what he brought. Because Noble Drew Ali is the vampire, dragon, Satan, Shaitan, everybody's slayer. He's the everybody's slayer. Trust me on that. Right? That's why you never heard about him. Forget about he was somebody unknown. That's why you never heard about him. You never heard about him because he was hidden from you. Right? So the first place we're going to go, right? First place we're going to go, we're going to send a big shout out to the Moors in Atlantis with Grand Governor Heru Ranesi L. Right? So Islam to the big GG, because that Moor right there is a real, true, active, sincere for the holy prophet Noble Drew Ali Moor that I back. Anybody talk anything about Heru Ranesi L? You have something to deal with, right? Now, he put out a series, right? The Moorish National Hero Series. Right? Now let's just back this up so everybody could know that Noble Drew Ali told Moors the law. Because remember, gonna do it like the children's thing. What is a prophet? A prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in the flesh. Alright. So the prophet, this is his words. It is not unusual for a newspaper to make its debut in the city of Chicago. The past years have seen many such come and many such go. The Moorish guide, taking its initial bow to the public, knows not what the future awaits it, but throwing its efforts on the sides of right, reason, and tolerance, we hope that we might make the grade. The Moorish guide enters the field of journalism with malice toward none and charity to all. It is not our purpose to disregard the work of other splendid journalists. You're being specific what type of journalists, what type of jurisdiction of journalists we're talking about, and journalism. We're not talking about the yellow journalists, right? We're not talking about the journalists who trained Oprah and all these type of people. We're talking about splendid journals, right? You could go ask Casanova Bay about some splendid journals if you want to know about books and jurisdiction of books and who buys the expensive books and who buys the cheap books and all that. Go talk to Brother Casanova. There's a lot more, right? The Moorish guide enters the field of journalism with malice toward none and charity to all. It is not our purpose to disregard the work of other splendid journals. It is not our purpose to fail to give due attention and space to all American citizens, individuals, and organizations alike who are working in their chosen fields of endeavor for the progress and development of all American citizens and all American institutions. We hope to cooperate with them in the intensive and grueling battle for universal justice. The Moorish Guide feels that the greatest weapon in the hands of our group today in America is our press. The truth will never be told about a disadvantaged minority, Negro, Black, Colored, etc., by the general press of any country, whether that minority, Negro, Black, Colored, etc., be racial, political, or religious, unless we, Moors, express ourselves through papers of our own. The truth about us will never be told logically, because everybody's using your birthright. And why would they tell you that they're using your birthright? Because it's international war crime to talk to niggers and teach them stuff that has to do with sophisticated anything. Many of our accomplishments, many of the beautiful things, many of the hopeful things and events which mark the progress of our group will go unrecorded were it not for papers of our own. Were it not for papers, plural. So you're not just talking about newspapers, but anything that the Moors put to paper, which include writs and which include anything that's documented. A strong free press is the best possible safeguard of the liberties in general promotion and defense of the interests of strong free people. That's Noble Drew Ali's words. So Noble Drew Ali said that, and go around to all the Moorish Science Temple, Moorish groups, Moorish whatever, and find out how much of them have papers, how much of them have books that they've written, that's theirs, that they wrote for the uplifting of fallen humanity, not because they wanted to sell some books and make some fiat. Right? Papers. How many of them have a newspaper? How many temples out there have a newspaper? Canaanland has a newspaper. We can say we have a newspaper, so nobody can say that we're not repping Noble Drew Ali, because Drew Ali said every temple is supposed to have a paper. So okay, so we have a newspaper. So we qualify. So we're putting out there for all the other so-called Moorish groups or whatever. If you say you honor the Prophet, like how Moors talk, you know, they parrot the Prophet. Well, the Prophet said that you shouldn't whatever, whatever. Okay, well, the Prophet said you're supposed to have your own papers. We just read it. So make sure you have your papers next class so we can promote that there's Moors out there with newspapers or a pamphlet or a book or something to do with Noble Drew Ali and what he brought for these Negro, Black, colored people, for them to get out of that dead state into the Moorvelous light. Right? So the first stop is, who is Noble Drew Ali? Heru Ranesi L, Grand Governor. There's not no small time individual. Right? When they talk about, yeah, I went through the chambers and all that. Okay, well, this is the adept. This is a true adept. Heru Ranesi L. And that's not a pumping up, you know what I mean, or whatever like that. Right? The Moor is studious, because Moors are studious. And when Moors study, they have to put the work out that they're, it's an obligation that we have to put out stuff, put out papers so people can see, right, and know that it's legit, that it's, we're not playing around. We're not just some people that have this idea, right, and we're just going to follow this man because this man is, you'll forget all that. Right? Noble Drew Ali is your prophet, divine prophet. Right? So we're just gonna go somewhere just because, like, these are Moors who you have to go out there, go buy their stuff. Forget buying packages. Go buy some some literature from some active Moors. Forget package, because package is not going to save you if you don't know what's in it anyways. Taj could write you a package, give it to you for free. You take it to court and you don't know what's in that, you lose. It's automatic, because if you didn't prepare it. So you lose. Because this is a divine and national movement. Noble Drew Ali said that from the jump. And everybody's just looking at this on some third dimensional, have a building with the carpet and whatever. Right? They don't want you to know what he did. Right? They want you to think that he's just some guy that came. This is your prophet. Page 43. In the Moorish Guide, dated April 19th, 1935, in an article entitled Why We Are in the Circle 7, we find the following information relating to the number 7. The number 7, therefore, because it consists of 3 and 4 joins the soul to the body, and the virtue of this number relates to the generation of man, and it causes man to be conceived, formed, brought forth, nourished to live, and indeed altogether to subsist for us when the general seed is received of that of a woman, if it remains that. Unintelligible. Abide there for a gestation period of 7 days. It is calculated and fit to receive the shape of a man. And it produces nature or infant, which is called an infant after birth. The first 7 hours try whether it will live or not, for it will bear the breath of air. After the hour it is conceived, it will live. GG stands for Grand Governor. A Moorish Science Temple of America appellation. Though the aforementioned excerpt from the article was only one aspect of the application of the number 7, one can clearly see how it is a divine number of perfection, not completion, for that space is occupied by the number 9, another prime number. One only has to read the book of Revelations to see more examples of the number 7. Another interesting point of Noble Drew Ali's life was the 1928 Pan American Conference, 6 International. This was an international conference of American countries, attended by dignitaries of North, Central, and South America. Secretary of State Charles Evans Hughes attended the conference representing the United States of America, and Noble Drew Ali went representing the Moors of Moorish America. According to a Time magazine article dated January 16, 1928, we find, since liberty was won, the most transcendental act in the internal life of America will probably be the holding at Havana of the 6th Pan American Conference. Sounding off with its truly transcendental overstatement, President Gerardo Machado of Cuba strove last week with titanic hospitality to welcome the delegates of 21 American nations who were in process of convening at his capital. Ironically, one of the Europeans that accompanied Secretary of State Hughes was another European named Frank Ross McCoy. So Frank Ross, R-O-S-S, McCoy, M-C-C-O-Y, 1874 to 1954, who was a West Point graduate, and in his military expeditions prior to attending the 1928 Pan American Conference, led the 10th Cavalry, a quote-unquote Negro unit, and in 1905 led a raid into the jungles of the Philippines, killing a chief of the Moro, a derivation of the word Moorish. People named them Datu Ali. Datu Ali was the last major chief to oppose American occupation of the island of Mindanao, M-I-N-D-A-N-A-O. He raided local villages, conducted hit-and-run campaigns, and had the Europeans terrified. So for that region, He was #1 on the Europeans' hit list, a Moorish Moro chief. At the Pan American Conference 1928, the mandate for the land of the Americas was given back to the Asiatic Moors. Basically put, Noble Drew Ali regained the Moors their inheritance back through acquiring the proper ownership of the land. Remember, the European is only an occupying force. He is not indigenous to this land. He knows this, which is why Noble Drew Ali became a target for assassination after this conference. Mandates for land can only be given to indigenous inhabitants. According to what is recorded on the land mandates, the only beneficiary to this vast land trust is the Moors. Just as if your parent died in a car accident and left the estate behind in the form of a written trust, the only individual or group that could inherit that estate are those parties mentioned by proper name within the said trust. Remember, this conference was 1928. The European began looking for a way to destroy Noble Drew Ali. Meanwhile, panic and fear began to surface when international banksters, got word of what Noble Drew Ali set into motion. They began to call in their loans due at once, which put a strain on the stock market. The traders began to sell stock for fear of national instability, and this led to the stock market crash of 1929. By 1929, the Fed raised interest rates several times to cool the overheated stock market. By October, the bear market had commenced. On Thursday, October 24, 1929, panic selling occurred as investors realized the stock boom had been an overinflated bubble. By November of 1929, the Dow sank from 400 to 145. In 3 days, New York Stock Exchange erased over $5 billion worth of share values. By the end of the 1929 stock market crash, $16 billion had been shaved off of stock capitalization. To make matters worse, banks had invested their deposits in the stock market. Now that stocks were obliterated, the banks had lost their depositors' money. Bank runs started where bank patrons tried to withdraw their savings all at once. Major banks and brokerage houses became insolvent, adding more fuel to the bear market. Many bankrupt speculators who were once aristocracy committed suicide by jumping out of buildings. Even bank patrons who had invested in shares became broke as 140 billion of depositor money disappeared and 10,000 banks failed. Noble Drew Ali began to take notice of the difficulties of Marcus Garvey's movement, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, was having with the government, and also the difficulties of the Abyssinian movement. His followers began to feel strong convictions that their prophet had truly liberated them from the clutches of European domination. They were flashing their nationality cards to Europeans and telling them that they were truly a nation not under their jurisdiction. Knowing this, Noble Drew Ali issued the following edict: I hereby warn all Moors that they must cease from all radical or agitating speeches while on their jobs or in their homes or on the streets. Stop flashing your cards before Europeans, as this only causes confusion. We did not come to cause confusion. Our work is to uplift the nation. This was in 1929. During the same time, Noble Drew Ali's leadership of the Moorish Science Temple of America became challenged. Claude Green, who was the business manager of the MSTA, challenged Drew Ali's authority. It is claimed at this time that the prophet told his faithful that he had a toothache and needed that tooth removed. He asked his grand sheiks who was up to the task of removing that tooth that bothered him so much. It took a sheik from out of town named Ira Johnson Bey, later known as Allah El. This story is being related for those that can read in the dark. A war ensued that was sparked by Claude Green putting all of Prophet's belongings out on the street at their headquarters in Chicago, March 11, 1929. The Prophet called his soldiers and Claude Green contacted his sympathizers, and the war among the Moors began. Ironically, Claude Green was formerly a butler of a rich Jew named Julius Rosenwald, Julius Rosenwald, who was a philanthropist. Rosenwald donated the funds for Juali to acquire their first temple called Unity Hall. Claude Green was instrumental in brokering this deal. During the battle, each side sent for Moors from other temples to offer support. Sound familiar? Claude Green was found shot and stabbed to death at Unity Hall on March 15, 1929. Noble Juali was arrested during what is claimed by police a celebration of his rival's assassination. We of the Nehesu clan of Moors do not support this view. However, we are offering it to show how Europeans work constantly to character assassinate our leaders. The night of the murder, Juali was out of town. A grand jury gave an indictment of Noble Juali, and Juali gave the following statement from jail. To the heads of all temples, Islam, I am your prophet. I do hereby and now write you a letter as a warning and appeal to your good judgment for the present and the future. Though I am now in custody for you and the cause, it is all right and it is well for all who still believe in me and my Father God Allah. Keep in mind the story I just told you about the Moor, that he kept the prophet close to home and everything was cool when he went up in there. And he got let out from the courthouse. They didn't take him back to the jail and then release him from the jail. Even though he got bail, they let him out from the courthouse. Out the back. Go through that door over there. Right? I have redeemed all of you, and you shall be saved, all of you, even with me. I go to bat Monday, May 20th, before the grand jury. If you are with me, be there. Hold on and keep the faith, and great shall be your reward. Remember my laws. Now remember what the Grand Sheikh said, and what the Grand Governors said, and what all these Moorish heads of leaders, organizations, associations, package selling, 1,500, 25 bucks, whatever. Not their laws. Remember my laws. Prophet. And love ye one another. Prefer not a stranger to your brother. Love and truth and peace I leave you all. Peace from your prophet, Noble Juali. When in police custody, Juali received a beating from the police that may have later caused his death, while other reports such as those on his death certificate claimed he died of tuberculosis. He died, and then some of them say pneumonia and all this, right? So stuff's going on all up in the morgue, in the freaking funeral home. There's conspiracy, right? He died in his home on July 20th, 1929, weeks after being released on bond. More properly, we should say that he did not die, but he transcended the physical, because man is not the body. Man is the thought of Allah. The body is merely a vehicle to traverse the physical plane. Juali moved on to the soul plane, where he said of his own words he could do greater works. And then the greater works is all you people out there, 16 people, and then whoever's all up in the chat, and everybody out there who, for some strange reason, you just gravitate toward what Noble Juali brought you. And it just makes common sense. And I think I'm going to, go with this, because there ain't nothing else for me to be on other than more science. Right? That's just what it is. Right? After the death of the prophet, all hell broke loose. All right, so right there. So it stopped right there. Right? So after the death of the prophet, all hell broke loose. So forget all the Miliil and the Kirtman Bay and with whoever has authority and whatever of over Moorish, whatever. All those guys should step down. If you're the head of whatever. Because ever since 1929 until now, nothing's really happened for the Moors as a whole. Stuff's gone on for active Moors. There's Moors who's been, you know, if you want to use right to travel as an example, doing that for 15, 20 years. If you want to talk about going to court, there's Moors who's been going to court, getting stuff thrown out like it ain't nothing for 15, 20 years. There's been Moors out there showing their nationality card to get exempt from taxes for 40 years, right? So there's been activity going on. You're just not hearing about it because if they're going to take Noble Drew Ali out, then why am I going to talk about, you know, Moorish, whatever, and all that when I know that they took him out? People on our side and people on that side and the church side and whatever, that were all against him because he was taking fiat out of their pockets. And he caused bank crashes and made them lose all this fiat that they had invested in European stocks. All those sellouts. Right? After the death of the prophet, all hell broke loose. The history of this is not altogether different than the history of when Prophet Muhammad of Arabia transcended the physical. In that history, Muhammad's rightful heir that he appointed, also named Ali, was set up by the lighter-skinned Arabs, and he and his family, Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein, all Moorish Arabs, had to leave Arabia. Other associations of the Prophet Muhammad took control forcefully. This is the beef between Shiite and Sunni Muslims today. Right? And what they say, history repeats itself. So we know, because if the comparison, right, is being made to Muhammad, and then he said that he's a prophet, and then there's this guy named Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and then he died under questionable circumstances, and as soon as he died, everybody tried to take over his thing, and then there's all these different splits or whatever going on. That's the same thing that we're seeing in the Moorish paradigm. But don't get it twisted, because after the death of the prophet, right, after the death of the prophet, because nothing went how it was supposed to do, everything that happened is void. Everything's void. So we have to start fresh. And then start fresh by new individuals coming in, knowing what the history of the Moorish Science Temple is, what the Moorish movement is, what happened to Noble Drew Ali and all that. So they can now sit back and for themselves decide on whether this is something they should be down with based on what he presented. Because if he died in 1929, right, and they talk about, you know, people die before their time and good guy die young and all that, right, then he died before his time and he didn't die, he was taken out. So people stopped his, you know, where he would have been. Just like certain other people that come and then they take them out. And usually it's their own. There's a pattern. History repeats itself. And it's been repeating itself, and we're not picking up. Because we still want to be friends with the traitors. We still want to have dirty Moors as friends. Like this is some social order. This is nationhood. Right? You want to be black, cool, but you know, chilling and all that. You can't chill because you're black. Like, I don't know what type of energy you're bringing to me. You know what I mean? Even though I'll be able to deflect everything that you bring, I'm not setting myself up. to just happen to be, you know, with you in your car and you have a gun under the seat because, you know, your friend just came and, you know, gave it to you. You know what I mean? Right? Because I see what Noble Drew Ali brought. He brought nationhood. So if he brought nationhood, then that's what we're going to be for. Just like any other nation. And as soon as you have a traitor or whatever amongst your midst, they got the reward whatever thing up, right? Man's face on there. And that's it. But we're not even that advanced yet. We're still trying to convince people that they're not Negro, black, colored people. So, see what the problem is? People not doing what they're supposed to do. And then everybody following those people who's not supposed to do, who's doing what they're not supposed to do. And the one that's doing what they're supposed to do are getting ridiculed by the ones who haven't been doing nothing for 90 years. Talking about why you do that. Prophet didn't say. Prophet said do this. Prophet said do that. Prophet said you should do this. When the basic thing as have a freaking newspaper, they're not following. That's basic. Newspaper ain't nothing to have. Especially if you got 1,500 people in your temple paying dues. Paper's nothing to have. Like we have 30 people strong that put a little something every month that we can put that paper out. It's not that serious. But you know, they make it appear to be serious, right? You know, we need to get as many, you know what I mean, or whatever. Just like when Taj was talking about people always collecting funds and whatever for a bus, and then there's no bus. And you've been collecting for like 10 years. You guys don't have bus money yet. You're collecting money for 10 years and you don't have bus money yet. Right? Why? Because after the death of the prophet, all hell broke loose. You know what all hell broke loose means? Right? You can look that up online. All hell broke loose. That's why it's the statements being made like that. So you can understand the panic that ensued after he left the forum. Why? Because there's all these millions of dollars sitting in this account that, you know what I mean, like everybody pretty much has access to because they're birthright. But then, just like we were talking about on Sunday, they didn't realize that they were trustees of an estate. They thought they were just grand governor or hold this chair because, you know, I have this title. Well, you're a trustee. So you can't be trying to raid the bank that the beneficiaries are supposed to get when you're only supposed to administer what's going on, make sure everything goes on legit. Right? So as soon as they tried to benefit, they ousted themselves. That's why the Moorish Science Temple of America was incorporated. For the greedy people who want to think they could own something. Yeah, well, you own something that's incorporated, not allodial. You own something that is a group or organization, not a nation. So yeah, you keep that. Go over there with that. That's why you see somebody like Taj come out and they do their own thing and they got nationality cards that they've been using for the past 10, 15 years or whatever like that, and they work and they just give it to people because it's your birthright. So here. And then they give you all the whole information on your website, on their website, so you can study and you can be clear in your mind about what the hell this is. No speculation, no wondering, well, you know, I have questions about whatever. rvbaypublications.com. Don't move from there for 2 years and you'll be straight. After that 2 years, guaranteed 100% foolproof. Guaranteed 2 years. You go take 2 years and go on rvbaypublications.com and don't move for 2 years. Just study from that website only. They have the drop down things or whatever. Start at the top. One, read that whole page. Click all the download things. Read those. Click all the other download things. Read all those. After you do that, then you go do that again. Because you missed stuff the first time when you read it. Because this is not no joke. It's serious business. Real serious business. Because this is the foundation of the so-called enemy's fall. The Moors reclaiming their birthright. Right? Noble Drew Ali he had the birthright. He was conscious of it. And he was active because he went to Pan American conferences and stuff like that. So obviously he was active. He wasn't sitting in the temple waiting, people come to the temple, take the charter off because nobody came, go home, you know what I mean, chill with Pearl and his wives and all this, and then, you know, next day come, hang the charter up, one person come in the door, hi, how you doing, my name's Prophet Noble Drew. That's not what he was dealing with. He was an emissary. He was a diplomat. Right? And he was active. And then he said, you know, be like me, your prophet. Okay, so you mean be active just like you're active then. That means we should be calling the Queen or something like that. We should be calling Barack. We should be calling, it has nothing to do with, you know, well, this you calling is hurting us because that's group talk. As a nation, if you're a national, you have a right to call the embassy. Why not? But you better know what you're talking about. You better been studying, because when they come at you and you don't know, then you're a fraud. So before you start making calls and whatever to embassies, RV Bay Publications, 2 years. That's the starting point. Wherever you get after 2 years, don't matter. Just 2 years. If you want, you can go hard 1 year. But if you go hard 1 year, that means you have to take off, like no TV, no Facebook, no YouTube, no nothing. Just that for 1 year, strong. Guaranteed. You'll be clear after you're done with that. You'll know exactly what your birthright is, and you know exactly how to exercise it. Because it's not rocket science. It's real simple. But to get some fiat out of you, people make this interesting. They make you think you can dot stuff and circle things, and you know what I mean? That'll give them a sign that you're sovereign. When you just made a contract with their little club, their little group, that says they have 500 members, but they really only have 50. They're putting all this information that is connected to Noble Drew Ali, but they don't mention him. They wouldn't bring him up. They talk about everybody else, but they'll never bring up Noble Drew Ali. And if they do bring him up, they bring him up like how this guy did in this book. Who was Noble Drew Ali? The boy Malachi York. Just remember, we have the, just remember, we have the PDF of this, and this is out of print. Go ask some Nuwapians for this book, see if you get it, and see their reaction when you ask them for this book. And if you go to them and they don't have it, don't worry. Just send an email, canaanlandguide@gmail.com, because we put this out already. We're just putting it out there again. We have the PDF for this book. It's free, so you can see why people do thousands of years in supermax prisons when statements of the fraud that they did it got retracted because they went against the prophet. And when you go against the prophet, you don't even know what's coming, because you just went against Allah. It's that serious. Don't even take this lightly. Right? Don't even take this lightly. Because this is not light. This is very serious. Peter Moon, European, telling you. Because, you know, everybody knows except even Moors don't know. Which is so much more messed up. Right? Because they're playing the Shiite Sunni game. Pick sides, which side is the better side. Should we go on this side? Should we go on this side? and then they abandon Noble Drew Ali, bickering to each other about who's the best, whose grand body is the real grand body, who's the real national Grand Sheik. That's just title. Put Grand Sheik on an idiot. He's gonna run the temple properly? Are you serious? And you're gonna follow him just because his title says Grand Sheik? So since he's the Grand Sheik and the Grand Sheik is the power to make law and enforce law, we'll let this idiot make law. Yeah, right. Who's done with that? So why does it happen? Why is it going on? Why is it a theme? You know, that you always get this back and forth, you know, especially Facebook, you always get this back and forth, right? In a thread, right? Where you could just send a message. You know, ask people. Yeah, I go on the thread too, to clown people. And if somebody's really asking questions sincerely, I'll send them a message. Yeah, you asked a question about whatever. Here's the answer. Go check this out. Because it's their stuff. They're not asking questions because they want to know. Because man is not the flesh. They're not asking a question because they want to know. They're asking a question for you to see if you're sharp. Do you know how to answer their question? Forget what they're asking. Because man is not the flesh. So always being tested. Forget the tests about, you know, if I exercise right to travel, am I going to be able to? Forget that test. Self-test first. Forget can you right to travel. Do you know yourself? Have you ever looked at your palms or whatever? Have you ever looked at your knuckles? Have you ever, you know, checked your body, looked over yourself, you know, just to see everything's there? You know, have you meditated and went inside yourself to really see how vast you are? Noble Drew Ali brought all that, and he packaged it real nice, called Moorish Science. And then he created a temple where you were supposed to go and learn Moorish Science. Why? Because temple is really a school, not a temple. The temple is really a university, not a temple where you go pray to Noble Drew Ali because you love your prophet. And you have a holy book called the Quran, which is really the mandate for your vast estate, that you don't think that it's a mandate because you think that's a holy book because that guy up there told you that it's a holy book because this is a religious movement. When he gave you the title to your vast estate. Oh yeah, and let's put that out there too. If you do have a Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, it is mandatory. It is mandatory. It's not hearsay. It's mandatory. Go ask the heads. Don't forget, I'm head. So I'm not telling you what I don't know. I'm telling you what I know. And I'm also telling you what they know, but they don't want to tell you. Every single Moorish American who's a member of a Moorish Science Temple of America is supposed to have a seal on your Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. All right. So if you have a Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America and you flip through it and you don't have a seal, somebody's gaming you, because that means that's a holy book then. But if you have a seal, now that's your title to your vast estate. Chapter 47. Go read it. Certain people even put that online. They put the Circle 7 online just so you can have title to your vast estate. You just print it out. But you better know what you're doing. You know, you better not just go to chapter 47. Oh yeah, the title to the vast estate. Here's the title to the vast estate. What's in chapter 3? What do you mean, what's in chapter 3? I thought you needed to see the title of what's in chapter 3. Well, I didn't read chapter 3 because, you know, I wasn't told that I should read that chapter. I was only told, right there you lose. And they could do whatever they want to you because you don't even know your own stuff. Right? So Peter Moon, because everything's relative. Before his death, Drew Ali could see what was coming down the pike for the Moorish nation. Right? So he saw all hell breaking loose before all hell broke loose. But this is a European telling you now, who studied Moorish science under Pleasant Bay. Right? Before his death, Drew and Islam the Pleasant Bay, because he's Moorish adept, that also saw this fraud going on in the Moorish Science Temple of America. People trying to own the Prophet, own Circle 7, own this, own that, like it's their stuff. And he went off on his own and he said, you know what, I'm going to save the people and give them their birthright under the form of Moorish American national government. With the Prophet up front, he always reps the Prophet. He doesn't play around with not repping the Prophet. But you're going to hear people talk negative about him because, you know, whatever the whisper is about him. When he's telling people about their nationality and their birthright. He's not selling it to you, but he never sold it to me. If he sold it to you, then sorry. But I never got gamed. Because I don't play getting gamed by people. Like, I know what's up. Right? And I don't know what's up because on that trip, that first trip to Mecca, Chicago, on the way back, right, 14 hours, and you have all these books that you never ever had before, you go hard. And went hard for 14 hours. 14 hours hard. And clear, just because Noble Drew Ali is a thought of Allah manifested in flesh. So everything that he says, Moors had better heed, because everything I say is spirit. Why is everything that Noble Drew Ali says spirit? Because he's a thought of Allah manifested in flesh. He told you that in 101 questionnaire that you're supposed to read and know, because he gave you the questions and the answers. But, you know, accordingly, he saw that the burden of the Moorish people was so great that it could not easily be overcome in a human form. As a result, he opted out and exited. In other words, he chose his death by simply leaving his body. While this might sound absurd on one hand, there is no known burial site or death certificate for Timothy Drew that has yet come to light. There are reports of a death and a funeral, but these are anecdotal and do not particularly contradict what was said above. Whatever the truth might be, of the situation might be, Drew Ali has left behind a legacy that positions himself as an ascended master. I do not know what is true or untrue about Drew Ali and his magical abilities. I do know, however, that they pale in comparison to what he represents as a leader of the Moorish movement, which is beginning to pattern itself like a giant tsunami. It is time to remember the words of Marjorie Cameron, as taught to her by Jack Parsons. It takes 100 to 150 years after the death of a man before you can begin to judge him and the impact he has made upon the world. Only after 50 years do you begin to get any real clues. Drew Ali left the physical world 75 years ago, so this is when he wrote this. So this is how long this European's been writing this perspective, and we're just finding out right now. We are just now getting some substantial clues. Since 1929, there has been a major effort to undermine any remnant traces of the Moorish Empire and the life and times of Noble Drew Ali. The great schism that occurred in 1929 after his death has sundered the Moorish Empire from any unity. Any true threads of that lineage have remained hidden and are only now emerging. It is something to be reckoned with. Yes. Be safe, right?
Good.
Everything good?
Blacked out all the time. I just had to catch myself.
You know you're gonna get those ones. Right? So that's Montauk Book of the Dead. Peter Moon. European. Brother. Yeah, European brother. Schooling you on your prophet. Right? Schooling us on our prophet. That he put out. Right? 8:13. And then keep in mind that when Noble Drew Ali was around, right, there was like opposition against him from every whatever connected to religious practice or whatever like that, right? There was supreme opposition from anybody who was in masonry or whatever like that. Mm-hmm. Anybody who was esoteric, occult and whatever. Mm-hmm. There was everybody against him. Mm-hmm. Because what's he doing? He's telling you that all that stuff that those people have that they're using or whatever is your stuff. Mm-hmm. And you actually taught them everything that they know. Mm-hmm. Everything mm-hmm. that they know. We taught them. Who are we? The Moors. Mm-hmm. Because we have 700 years of documented fact, evident proof that that's the case. Mm-hmm. And they admit that they were taught by the Moors. Mm-hmm. And it was the Moors that brought them out the Dark Ages and gave them street lights and gave them pavements and whatever like that. Mm-hmm. Right? So we're going to go again to another one of the master teachers. Right? Brother Hakim Bey and the old school foundation, new Moors, get active booklets. Mm-hmm. The Moorish paradigm, Hakim Bey, right? You can get the master issue, number 13. Moorish paradigm, the master issue, right? By Hakim Bey. Because people want to play with your prophet. People want to play with your prophet, and don't want you to really know the vastness of what the hell happened when he came on the scene, right? Al-Quran, Surah 16, verse 36. And verily, we have raised in every nation a Rasul, messenger, proclaiming, serve Allah and shun Taghat, all false deities. Of the people were some whom Allah guided, and some on whom error became inevitably established. Shall travel through the earth and see what was the end of those who denied the truth. This is the reason why the Arabs and many of the current Muslims of the East have and will oppose us as we rise. It is in the very prophecies of which they themselves hold in their hands. When the man of this matter, Al-Qaim, appears, he will receive harm from people worse than what the Prophet has received. And that's from Kitab al-Ghaiba, Nuami, page 421. When our Qiyam rises, he will face so much difficulty from the people that even a Nabi during the period of Jalila, Jahiliyah, did not face. This was actually fulfilled by a Muslim named Sati Majid, Sattimajid, who was so outraged by the Prophet bringing a new quote-unquote Quran, he wrote the Prophet demanding that he change the name and burn the book. He even tried to get the United States government involved, but the government did not get involved and told Sati Majid to go to the men of knowledge and religion to seek redress. He then went to the Muslim scholars in Egypt to get them to pronounce a fatwa against Prophet Noble Drew Ali, which they did. They also, however, spoke against Sati Majid and his qualifications. It was said in the prophecies that the Muslims in the East have that the Mahdi will invite to a new movement, a new tradition, a new method, yet they will rebel against that which they themselves know. He appears with a new method, new principles, and new judgments. He will be severe with the Arabs. Ithbat al-Hudat, Ithbat al-Hudat, Volume 3. Truly best are we, the strangers. There is no one else who fulfilled all these prophecies other than Noble Drew Ali. The Prophet did bring us a Quran, as our people requested in the magazine article. The Negro is crying for a Muhammad to come forth and give him the Quran of economic and intellectual welfare. Where is he? He fulfilled the Islamic prophecies concerning the Mahdi, as seen in the above quotes. He even fulfilled the Christian prophecies found in the book of Revelations. Now that we have a little background on the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and his rise to prophethood, let us now look at what exactly he did do to raise and save us as a nation, a divine and national movement for the uplifting of a nation. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said to the Moors, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. Now take it and save yourselves. What was it that Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought to save us as a nation? When he made this statement, it is said he was holding up the Holy Quran of the MST of A and the questionnaire containing the 1928 charter and laws of the Moorish Science Temple. The Prophet said he brought us everything it takes to save a nation. Well, first of all, what is a nation? And how do the above documents, Quran and Charter, play a role in saving a nation? Nation, birth, a race, people, to be born. A stable, historically developed community of people within a territory, economic life, distinct culture, and a language in common. The people of a territory united under a single government. Nation, and that's Webster's Unabridged Dictionary and Black's Law Dictionary. Nation, a people or aggregation of men existing in the form of an organized jural society, usually inhabiting a distinct portion of the earth, speaking the same language, using the same customs, possessing historic continuity, and distinguishing from other like groups by their racial origin and characteristics, and generally, but not necessarily, living under the same government and sovereignty. The key things to the exercise of a nation, common to both of the above definitions, are 1. A race or people of common origin, 2. Inhabiting a territory or portion of the earth, 3. A distinctive and common culture, 4. A common language, 5. Historical existence and continuity, 6. Unity under a single government. If the above 6 items are key to the existence of a nation, to save a nation, you must repair or restore any of these items which that nation has lost or was destroyed. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us every one of these keys to saving us as a people, a nation, right? Not a temple or a group of people, you know what I mean, wanting to, you know, do some debates, right? A nation, right? Our Holy Quran brought to us by the Prophet lays out our racial and common origin. The Holy Quran also describes the metes and bounds of the territories given to our ancestors by our pharaoh in Egypt after the cataclysms of 1500 BC. The Prophet in the Quran, Moorish literature, writings, and oral statements taught us some of the distinctive and common aspects of Moorish civilization and culture, established English as our modern common language. For all Moors out there who want to go learn 50 languages, when we already have a language that we're speaking that isn't or doesn't belong to Albions or Pale people, because they spoke oink oink snort snort and those stuff. They have no language, right? Okay. He reconnected us back to the historic legacy of our Moorish ancestors in Mecca and Morocco in the July 20th, 1928 Charter. The Moorish Science Temple of America, deriving its power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. This is why he said, I have mended all the broken wires and have connected them to higher powers. By giving us our nationality of Moorish Americans, he united us under one single government. On the national side, he established us as national citizens of the Moorish national government of the United States of America, Moorish Americans. On the divine side, he re-established our divine government via the divine constitution and laws of the Moorish Science Temple of America and established a new caliphate. Right? A divine and national government, two governments well involved in one. The reason the Prophet named this movement the Moorish Divine and National Movement is because it is a movement designed to restore us within our divine government and thence within the national government of the United States of America. By establishing our divine birthrights and government, he also established our rights as Moorish Americans, national citizens. Thus, our movement teaches us how to function in two spheres of activity. The divine sphere, represented by the eye and the pyramid on the dollar bill, and the national sphere, represented by the eagle. At the head of the national government is the president, followed by the vice president. At the head of the divine side is Allah, then Prophet, followed by Supreme Grand Sheikh and chairman of the Moorish Science Temple. Divine and national relates to the separation of church and state, thus the two seals. The reason our side is called divine is because it is headed by Allah, and we have a divine constitution. The national government has a secular constitution, creating republican form of government. Thus, we are a nation within a nation. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a divine nation functioning with a national government structure. The purpose of the Prophet's divine and national movement was to make us a nation within this nation by restoring to us all that was taken from us. This was one of the toughest jobs and greatest feats ever to be attempted. What the Prophet did was no college education shows that he was not guided by the opinions and ideas of men, but he was in fact divinely guided. To do this, the Prophet had to execute his plan in degrees in stages. In the Moorish leader's historical message to America, the Prophet laid out the degrees and stages he took the movement through in order to achieve his aim. Right? So because Noble Drew Ali wasn't, hide or sell people's stuff to them or whatever, right? He basically gave, right? He gave everything that he brought, right? And the people didn't accept it. One, because they didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And if they don't know, it's because they weren't told. And if they weren't told, we have to find out, well, who didn't tell and who knew, right? And why didn't they tell? And if there's a reason why they didn't tell, then that means there's motive.
What's that about?
And then if there's motive not to tell,
Why are we not telling?
right? This is way bigger than we imagine. Because just like we were saying from the beginning, that don't think that when you hear Kudro or you hear whoever say dirty Moors, that we're only talking about fez wearers who killed the Prophet. We're also talking about Negro, black, colored people out there who are Christian and who are, whatever heads. And they know this information because they're Masons or they took some type of oath or whatever like that, right? In some type of secret order, right? Some esoteric, allegorical order, right? And they know all this stuff. And they're not telling, right? And then sometimes they tell in code, like, they put the symbol out there, they'll have a big tapestry with a Moor on it. You know what I mean? Have like Allah on their fez, and people just, the Masons, or but he has Allah on his fez. Like, if he's a Mason, why does he have Allah on his fez? Why does he have everything Moorish on his fez? Why is he wearing a fez? Why do you wear a hat from Europe? You know what I mean?
Yankees hat.
Why Yankees hat or something, right? Do like Kanye, bring the Confederate flag and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Right? So it goes on and on and on about people not telling you about the Prophet, right? Because they don't want to. When you have to talk about the Prophet if you're talking about Moors. Was the Prophet even in Hidden Colors?
Even watching Hidden Colors.
If anybody knows in the chat, was the Prophet in Hidden Colors? Just throwing that out there. Because I only watched it once. Because I'm not even having it. Right? Guess nobody knows. Everybody's thinking about it. Yeah, it was the Prophet in the frame. How come they didn't mention the Prophet?
We might not even know.
Right. So now we're going to go to Big Brother, Master Teacher once again. Right? Master Teacher once again. Our fellow children in the New World, Moorish history and identity in the African American experience. Jose V. Pimienta Bay. Right? Everybody knows Jose Pimienta Bay. Everybody knows him. If you study Moors. Right? So we're going to go to page 194. 194. Hold on a sec. Okay, no, sorry. 196. Drew Ali's Moorish Quran also spoke of the ancient African presence in the Americas long before such claims became more widely accepted during the quote-unquote Black Studies movement of the late 1960s. Chapter 3 of this study presented and discussed some of the evidence of such contacts between American Indians and Africans. This study has shown that the dividing line between African peoples and American Indian peoples is often very thin. Consequently, one should better understand the logic of still employing more for America's blacks, Negro, and colored peoples with quote-unquote Indian ancestry. Nevertheless, like the term British, the use of Moor does not need to supersede the use of tribal names like Cherokee, Abenaki, Micmac, etc. In light of the facts, we should better appreciate the profound words of the visionary scholar and late Charshee Lawrence McIntyre, Charshee, Lawrence McIntyre, McIntyre. An interesting quirk within the African American reality. A majority claim Native American ancestry, Cherokee, Chickahominy, Blackfoot, and so forth. Yet, most only acknowledge the biological connection. Few attribute any of their customs, belief, or rituals to their Native American ancestry. European Americans charge Native Americans with savagery and describe them as cultureless. African Americans often mimic this practice and reflect a sense of shame about their Native American ancestry. McIntyre also agreed with Kenneth Wiggins Porter regarding the high degree of amalgamation between the peoples. Porter said that the amalgamation was so great that, quote-unquote, many African Americans probably should call themselves Afro-Amerindians. A great deal of evidence, or I don't know if they have, you want to research it, AFRAMERINDIANS. A great deal of evidence suggests that such amalgamation began in antiquity, and descriptions of Africoid quote-unquote Indians abound. Yet the aquiline-nosed, long-haired, cigar store wooden Indian is the classic symbol of Americana and the American Indian, quote-unquote. I have no doubt that the historic use of that icon has contributed greatly to limiting the phonotypic image which one can legitimately use to represent an quote-unquote American Indian. Consequently, there are many American Indians walking around with socially imposed amnesia. Most of these amnesiacs would answer to the designate of quote-unquote black. Drew Ali had argued that the historical limitations and disenfranchisement of so-called Negroes, blacks, quote-unquote, was directly related to the legal designates which were applied to them. In his speech in 1928, Noble Drew Ali said that those U.S. residents who denied the use of their free national name would endure whatever mistreatments the citizens cared to bestow. Ali considered it a sin for any people to cling to names that connected them to the slave era, Negro, black, and colored. And the historical record definitely reveals that persons lacking officially recognized national names clearly held limited rights. Historically speaking, Moor was clearly recognized by Europeans as a nationality. Repeat that again for all the people who, because remember, this is a university professor. This is a university professor that's still teaching right now. So this is validated. Historically speaking, Moor was clearly recognized by Europeans as a nationality. Within the U.S., its meaning was not synonymous with limited rights or semi-citizenship. Conversely, black and Negro were designates applied to Asiatic peoples who'd been enslaved or severely restricted politically. Right? Who'd been enslaved or severely restricted politically. So he's telling our people that slavery is a fraud. Because slaves come from Slavs, and Slav is European, and we're not European. So we weren't slaves. What were we? We were restricted politically. How were we restricted politically? We were restricted politically because we were really Moors, which were the true Americans, and we were denationalized, and we accepted the labels of Negro, Black, Colored, which restricts our political exercising of our rights. And that's what slavery is. Right? But eventually, so many people of pronounced African ancestry were under oppressive Eurocentric conditions that in the popular mind, the term Negroes and Black became to acquire a synonymity with the Africoid phenotype. In time, Eurocentric, westernized Africans grew accustomed to answering to those designates of oppression. For the average European American of the South, slave status essentially became synonymous with African peoples. However, U.S. history reveals that such a perception was a most detrimental oversimplification. The quote-unquote white rights and favored status granted to quote-unquote Moorish and quote-unquote Indian nationals in colonial Americana and U.S. society proves that. Native American historian Jack Forbes noted that Americans' history of quote-unquote white and quote-unquote black is essentially a history of quote-unquote citizen and quote-unquote non-citizen or semi-citizen. Native Americans operating in mainstream U.S. society typically knew the significance of the labels Negro, Black, and wisely sought to avoid association with such terms. Such terms were official indicators of enslaved status or limited rights of the possessor. The defeated Seminoles were first officially reclassified as Negroes before being sold into slavery. Not surprisingly, many Indians increasingly resisted that term and often avoided any association with those who were known by it. Right? Drew Ali's early Cherokee experiences probably provided him with some of the initial insight for his movement. This would include his recognition of the importance of espousing a nationality, as well as any awareness of the ancient and Islamic era contracts between Africa and the Americas. Interestingly enough, there was even a Cherokee leader in the mid-19th century with an Arabic name, Saladin Wati, Saladin Watie. Saladin was a Cherokee delegate sent to Washington, D.C. in 1866 to negotiate a treaty with the U.S. government following the Civil War. Asante says in Kemet, Afrocentricity and Knowledge, Sepulveda and Oviedo, theoreticians of the conquistadors, argued that the Indians did not have nationality and were by nature slaves. We should now see greater significance in that statement. Those who learned Spaniards seemed to be arguing that peoples must possess recognized nationalities in order to avoid being viewed and treated as slaves. What was true of Spanish dominions was apparently true for the U.S. Republic as well. The process of disempowering and disenfranchising African persons clearly related to the denial of their nationality. The denial or ignorance of the Africans or Indians' nationality essentially constituted the denial of their personhood and affirmed their status as the property of some other persons. Like Catholic Spain after the Reconquista, U.S. legal history reflects an administrative need, even obsession, with the reclassification of oppressed persons and peoples. From a legal standpoint, Negro and Black are historically more synonymous with property than with man or citizen. I think that this is what Juali was contending when he taught that so-called blacks must officially proclaim their Moorish nationality. It may be that Noble Juali posited that Moorish Americans in the U.S. were legally aliens until they were naturalized in some way. But that would only make sense if one considered these lands as having formerly been under Moorish jurisdiction and only later taken over by what would become the U.S. government. Perhaps the reference to other aboriginals is a reference to the Moors. Like defeated or politically compromised American Indian nation, Moors too would have to actively apply for citizenship in this new country. If this was part of Ali's rationale, then the temples have essentially been serving as naturalization centers for those who've desired full citizenship. Ali was wisely honest. He was clear in distinguishing his teachings from the Sunni religion of Islam. Ali openly told his followers that they were practicing Islamism and not the religion of Islam. I interpret this concept of Islamism in the following way. Islam simply means peace or submission to God Allah in Arabic, and since Ism means the condition of being, Islamism would translate as the condition of being at peace via submission to the will/laws of the Father God Allah. But such peace requires achieving harmony within Allah's creations, particularly humanity as a whole and the natural world. I would argue that to be harmonious, a person must be reasonably fluid and avoid unnecessary dogmatism. Yet dogma is the basis of quote-unquote religion. But one can avoid religious conflict by focusing upon the essential spiritual and ethical principles which are shared by most quote-unquote religions. For MST, Muslims/Muslims, the Islamic path of submission to Allah is simplified as a creed. Moorish scientists are taught to maintain love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. In fact, temple members are encouraged to engage the word in the same order as the spiritual principles given, love being first and justice being last. Clearly, the MST Muslim is more concerned with spiritual principles than with religious orthodoxy. That is why the MST Muslims focuses upon the kinship of all the divine messengers. The apparent eclecticism of Moorish science more easily allows for greater unity among differing cultures than those religions which mandate the parroting of rituals. Right? And again, that's Jose Pimienta Bay, Othello's Children in the New World. Right? And then you could go buy that book, and you could go buy all the books that we showed today, right? And start supporting Moors who are active, because that's what the whole point is. The point is for Moors to be active so the people could know the truth about their nationality and their birthrights, right? Because the nationality and birthrights doesn't belong to somebody who's selling this. Right? The nationality and birthrights does not belong to somebody who's selling this. It belongs to the people. This is the people's birthright, right? This is not the temples or the associations or, you know what I mean? It's not even the prophets.
It's the people's.
It's the people's. And the only way that you're gonna see a change in, you know, when all people talk like, how come there's in the Moorish, you know, how come there's this in the Moorish, and how come the Moors can't, how come the Moors don't do whatever, right? When you start get out of that mentality and get into the mentality as, since we're Moors, why don't we start whatever? Since we're Moors, let's whatever.
More proactive.
Being that we're Moors, you know, we should whatever and start doing that. Oh yeah, and Islam, to brother Cosmo L in Cali, who just set me up with some beats. So we have another installment of Iron Sheik on top of Iron Sheik 5. You know, we're putting it out there right now. You know what I mean? Contracts signed, beats are delivered, right? So we got more coming on top of Iron Sheik 5, right? Which is coming before the end of the year. So, you know, we're just tying up some loose ends right now. Right? So last but not least, you know, we have to save the best for last because everybody talks crap about the master teacher. You know, Tarik Bey, the misunderstandings, addressing misunderstandings of purpose concerning Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, Noble Joe Ali, Moorish Divine and National Movement, right? And this is like, you know, this is going to be a little series or whatever because we didn't get to Alim Bey's book yet, right?
A few more.
About, you know, about what he has to say about Noble Joe Ali, because everybody likes to say, oh yeah, he's against Noble Joe Ali. He told people they should get off Noble Joe Ali's dick and all this stuff, and you know, he's talking bad against the Prophet, right? But we're gonna show his book just so everybody can see that, you know, he's not against no Prophet or nothing like that, right? He's down with the Prophet more than some of these Moors who's talking against him, saying that, oh yeah, he's not down with the Prophet, right? And then also to Pleasant Bay's book, right? Cause we have to go with that book too, because, you know, Moors talk shit about Pleasant Bay, about he's, you know, stealing and robbing and whatever. But, you know, he put out a book this big, you know, which is $100, but it's really, you know, $50 because he'll just do that if you bill with him, right? And not only that, he runs out of books, and then there's Moors that duplicated his book, and they're selling it on Amazon, and he's not getting anything from it. Moors duplicated his book and selling it on Amazon. Bootlegging the product. Pleasant Bay. If you've seen Pleasant Bay's book, you're serious if you're bootlegging that book. Like, you're serious if you're bootlegging that book. That's not one of these books right here, right? It's not one of these. It's not even like this. Like, it's a book. If you're copying that, you got time. Mad time. You got mad time. You should be active and doing something for the nation. Right? So we're going to go to page 10. I have always, and this is Tarik Bey. I have always found it troubling to see many vague concepts and misconceptions develop among our people as they hinder or stagnate our rise from Inquisition oppression, especially those wrong impressions that arise and are mainly due to misrepresentations. Noble Joe Ali has suffered much from those misgivings that are erroneous and have been falsely propagated about the noble Moorish uplifting cause. It irks me to recognize that many sincere and serious interested natural people have sometimes displayed an air of disillusionment, confusion, and misunderstandings concerning the direction of the purpose of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. It must be emphasized to all curious people and neophytes who receive Moorish culture class instructions that Noble Joe Ali was a universal prophet. Universal means affecting, concerning, and involving all, to be used or understood by all in general, and deemed to be applicable throughout. That which is universal can be thought of as a truth, a philosophy, and entity, or a concept which can be in many places at the same time, as distinguished from a particular or individual event. Because Noble Drew Ali is a universal prophet, the universal application or the public airing of his mission, statements, literature, instructions, and messages are directed to all the natural people of North America at large, and are not just limited to the fallen and mentally enslaved Moors, his people. Put things in perspective when studying and remember what Noble Drew Ali said to all the Moors. I am a universal prophet, and my philosophy will be universal. To connect to this understanding, therefore, to connect to this understanding, refer to Holy Quran 7. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali made a forthright, firm, and compelling plea to the nation, and presented to us Moorish Americans, specific and conscious, obliging respect for the grand principles of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, being love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Right? All right, and then we'll just hit up plea to a nation. All right, so Prophet makes plea to the nation. Our divine and national movement stands for, right, he's not making the plea to the temple or to the Moorish organization or to the sovereign guys in the back who say, Prophet, ooh, right? He said to the nation, because he's a universal prophet, so his philosophy is universal. And as soon as you assume, as soon as you make the assumption that he is owned by you or your group or whatever, and nobody can't use anything or whatever, you void your position and your authority to use the prophet. That's why people who are dirty usually don't use him. They usually don't have him up front. Right? Our divine and national movement stands for the specific, grand principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I, the prophet, am applying to all loyal, faithful Moors, members, and American citizens to help me in my great uplifting acts of uplifting fallen humanity among the Asiatic race and nation. Always talking nationhood. For I have suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. So he's already telling you that people must misunderstanding what I brought. And I suffered from it already. And people still misunderstand what I brought. Why is it that people misunderstand what I brought? Because everybody that I taught is a sellout. And they're not doing their job that they're supposed to do. So I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go on a soul plane and I'm going to go there and work from there where those punks can't touch me. Because I brought them everything it takes to save a nation. So what the hell am I doing here for? Messing around with all these dirty Moors around me. Right? It is the great God Allah alone that guides the destiny of the divine and national movement. So all these sheiks and grand sheiks and whatever and all these people after Noble Drew Ali who claim that they're the authority because they have a little thing right here that says that I'm the authority, don't even go for it. Allah guides the destiny of the Moorish movement. Right? And if Allah is guiding it, I don't think it's going to be corrupt and messed up and whatever. It's going to be top a top. I know all true American citizens are identified by national descent names to answer and apply to the free national constitution of this free national republic of the United States of America. That's why I am calling on all true national citizens to help me morally and financially in my great work I am doing to help this national government. For without a free national name, with a descent flag of your forefathers, there is not a national divine title of the government in which you live. This is from your true and divine prophet unto all American and foreign sympathizers, Noble Drew Ali. And put it all out there that he needs the help. Please help me, pleading to people and all that. And everybody just go about my business. I'm gonna go improve Negroes, and I'm gonna go and advance colored people, and I'm gonna go do all these things that have I'm gonna call myself nation when I'm not a nation and all that. Right? All to get you away from Noble Drew Ali and what he brought. So again, right? If you're serious about this information and you're just getting into this information, it's wise to have what Noble Drew Ali brought, so at least that way you're specific with what he said has to get done or whatever. And then secondary to that, you're going to connect with Moors, who Moors you appreciate and Moors who you think are, not the Moors who are out there, right? But you yourself studying, there's going to be Moors that you're like, yeah, that Moor right there, the way he dropped that, like, yeah, I could listen to this man talk for an hour, or 2 hours, or 5 hours, or whatever. All right, that Moor right there, right? Make sure his foundation is Noble Drew Ali. Because they are finesse masters that, they could talk the good game and whatever, and they bring you, closer and closer. They bring you closer. And then when they get close to you, right? Man turn jaws on you, right? Take your foot in your hand or something like that, right? So, Noble Drew Ali, up front, everything's out there. You don't have to go hunt, search, or whatever. Canaanlandmoors.webs.com, you're going to get Noble Drew Ali. Hakim Bay, you're going to get Noble Drew Ali. RV Bay Publications, you're going to get Noble Drew Ali. Right? Elihu Pleasant Bay, you're going to get Noble Drew Ali. Not what the assumption of what he said or whatever, but the actual stuff that he brought. And the most important thing is the Circle 7 and the 101 questionnaire. And that's just supposed to be, hi, inquiring about Noble Drew Ali, and that's how you're supposed to get it. And that's how you're supposed to get it. You don't need to break down, what's it, unless you're, a person asks a question, right? But like when people come to the temple, right? Yeah, I see, I got this DVD and they see this DVD and whatever. Put on all those stuff right there. Take this right here for free. Take this right here for free. And start with that verse. Check that out, yeah. You know what I mean? If you want to make a donation, you can go pick up some DVDs if you want. But you're not going there first. Like, because there's a foundation. And if this is yours, it would be in your best interest for you to know what this is. Right? Like Brother Abdullah said, don't say, because Brother Abdullah said, and Brother Abdullah said, if Brother Abdullah said, then you don't know. Because you should be saying, if you're studying. You know what I mean? So, you want to say Islam to all the Moors, right? Once again, Brother Awful Gift, AWEFUL, that hit up the picture in the back right?
Big picture.
Right? Yeah, that was his donation to the museum. So for anybody out there, you know, if you're in some country somewhere and you have a little Moorish figurine or something just sitting there, you know, get at the Moors. Canaanland@gmail.com, and you could donate your artifact to the Moorish Museum. And 23rd, pretty sure it's 23rd of November. We got Feed the Hungry campaign coming up again.
Okay.
Right? So Feed the Hungry is basically, you know, go in and feed the hungry. Right?
Yeah.
So, for all the Moors, you know, the Canaanland Moors, you know what I mean? We're gonna be out there. You know what I'm saying? Doing the do, fez up. You know, we got paper we can distribute and stuff like that. It's gonna be downtown, 6 p.m. on the 23rd. Big up Exodus Movements for never stopping doing these. You know what I mean? Because from the first one, it's been repetitive. You know what I mean? Not easing up.
Yeah.
Right? Consistent. Why? Because all Moors are active, not passive. We don't sit down and wait for stuff. We do it. You know, in Islam, to all the Moors in the Canaanland temple that's been stepping up and, you know, taking posts and things like that. You know what I mean? Getting on their own study and actually recognizing that this is their stuff. And if you want something done, there's papers on the ground. Don't be giving orders about, you know, who didn't sweep today. Go grab the broom. You know, and since you have the broom, you might as well get the mop too, and then just get the Windex and then do the windows and everything. You know what I mean? Then we keep it moving. Right? Oh yeah. And today's books, Jose Pimienta Bay, Our Fellow Children in the New World. You can get that online. Make sure you get this. Show support. Right? Because they're talking about art. Yeah, big title. They're talking about our history, right? And it's from Moors or people who study from Moors, right? Peter Moon, Montauk Book of the Dead, right? So you go get it. Go support. Let's talk about Noble Drawley in there. Let's talk about your prophet in a context better than what Moors talk about. Why? Because most Moors don't even put out nothing, so we don't even have nothing to compare this to other than the Moors who put stuff out.
Yeah.
And the Moors who put stuff out are heavy. Right? And I'm not talking about a one book or whatever. You know, like for example, you know, Jose Pimienta Bay wrote Prelude and whatever in Ivan Van Sertima's books. So he's not no small time somebody. He's big time.
Yeah.
Right? He knows Ivan Van Sertima. That's his master teacher. That was his master teacher. Right? So Montauk Book of the Dead. Right? Don't forget Grand Governor Heru, who is Noble Drawley. Right? Actually, let me just put the... If you're in Atlanta, I could at least give you this. If you're in Atlanta, go check Grand Governor Heru. Right? Because those Moors get down out there, right? Email, I believe the email is the same. Amir Heru 9, like Amir Heru number 9, or the number 9 at yahoo.com, and 404-957-3733. 404-957-3733. And Grand Governor Heru has about 6 more books. So it's not just, you know, he's not no one book more. You know, like he has stuff out there. You know what I mean? He got mad books. Another more that you can support. Give your fiat to them Moors. Don't forget, go buy packages, and forget donating funds to people who, you know, say bus fund and you haven't seen a bus in 10 years. Take that funds and give it to some active Moors who's doing work for the nation, who's doing work for you, so you can have access to this reconstructed history in America information that you're not getting if you don't ask a Moor. You're not getting it. You're not getting the real deal of what it is if you don't ask a Moor. If you ask anybody out there, they'll tell you whatever. Right? So Islam to all the Moors, peace and love. Don't forget, 9:30, we're on the blog talk. All right? We'll just close out with the prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through His holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Islam. Peace, Moors. Islam, 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 Islam. We got this. Stay active, not passive, Moors. Peace.